The massive ridge of Meridian Prime's eastern mountain range glimmered like polished obsidian under 3 pale blue moons. Eugene's fingers danced across the holographic control panel, tracking the incoming Kelran diplomatic vessel as it descended. Through the planet's turbulent atmospheric layers, the colony's early warning systems had been buzzing for hours. Something was different about this approach. Unlike previous alien encounters, these Kelran representatives seemed genuinely curious about human settlements on this brutal, unforgiving world. Meridian Prime wasn't just another colonial outpost. It was a proving ground where humanity had transformed a nightmarish ecosystem into a functional home. The planet's surface bristled with razor-sharp rock formations, electromagnetic storms that could fry conventional electronics, and creatures that made Earth's most dangerous predators look like harmless pets. Eugene watched the spacecraft's descent. Its sleek titanium-like hull reflected starlight, moving with an elegance that contrasted sharply with the rugged terrain below. The ship's design suggested advanced technological capabilities, curved edges, minimal heat signatures, and a propulsion system that seemed to whisper rather than roar. "Incoming transmission!" chirped the colony's communication system. A holographic interface materialized, showing a being that looked simultaneously familiar and alien, humanoid in basic structure, but with skin that seemed to shimmer and change, color like a living camouflage. The Kelran representative's eyes, if they could be called eyes, were large, multifaceted structures that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. When they spoke, the words emerged not as sound, but as a series of synchronized color shifts and subtle electromagnetic pulses. "Human settlement," the transmission began. "We request landing coordinates and biological decontamination protocols." Jin smiled. Typical alien bureaucracy. Even after centuries of interstellar contact, most species approached new worlds with an obsessive need for procedural precision. Behind her, the colony's defensive systems hummed with quiet readiness. Automated turrets remained hidden beneath geological formations, quantum-linked sensor networks covered every possible approach, and underground shelters could seal themselves within milliseconds if needed. The ridge beasts, massive, predatory, creatures that dominated Meridian Prime's ecosystem, continued their endless patrol in the rocky valleys below. Their massive horned silhouettes moved with surprising grace, each step calculated and precise. Eugene knew these creatures. She had studied them, hunted them, and understood their complex behavioral patterns. To the Kelran, they would appear as uncontrollable monsters. To humans, they were just another resource to be understood and managed. Her communication officer, Park Dong-hyuk, leaned closer. "They're requesting detailed planetary scan data. Seems like they're more than just tourists." The colonies advanced. Scanning systems began transmitting a carefully curated dataset. Topographical information, ecological patterns, mineral compositions, everything presented to showcase human adaptability without revealing all their technological secrets. Outside, the first ridge beast raised its head, sensing the incoming spacecraft. Its massive horns, each capable of puncturing reinforced vehicle armor, gleamed under the moonlight. But instead of charging, it watched, calculated, waited. Eugene appreciated the creature's intelligence. Much like humans, these ridge beasts weren't simply reactive. They strategized, they learned, they survived. The Kelran ship began its final descent sequence, anti-gravity stabilizers compensating for Meridian Prime's unpredictable wind patterns. Its landing trajectory suggested military precision, not an exploration vessel, but something more purposeful. "Prepare standard first contact protocols," Eugene commanded, "and make sure the kitchen team has those ridge beast steaks ready. Nothing breaks interstellar tension like unexpected hospitality." Park Dong-hyuk chuckled. "Serving predator meat to aliens who probably consider those creatures unbreakable war machines? Classic human move." As the spacecraft's shadow began to eclipse the monitoring station's external cameras, Eugene felt that familiar surge of excitement. Another first contact, another opportunity to show the galaxy what humans could do. Meridian Prime wasn't just a colony. It was a statement. A declaration that humanity could turn the most hostile environments into home. and the Kelran were about to learn exactly what that meant. End of Part 1. The colony's central dining hall buzzed with a nervous energy as Hyun-woo prepared the meal. Massive transparent windows revealed Meridian Prime's harsh landscape, where ridge beasts prowled like living nightmares between razor-sharp rock formations. The Kelran delegation watched in complete silence. Their translucent skin shifted colors, a biological response to confusion and barely contained fear. Hyun-woo moved with practiced precision, his hands dancing across specialized culinary equipment that looked more like surgical instruments than cooking tools. The ridge beast carcass lay on an advanced cooling station. Most alien species would have recoiled at the sight. A creature with razor-sharp horns, muscle groups that looked more like living armor than meat, and blood that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural metallic quality. But to Hyun-woo, this was just another ingredient. "Would you like to understand our preparation process?" he asked, catching the Kelran commander's multiple lens eye structures. The translation device crackled. The commander's response came through as a mixture of color patterns and electromagnetic pulses that resolved into words. Observation is permitted. Hyun-woo's first cut revealed the complexity of ridge beast anatomy. The meat wasn't just muscle. It was a complex biological system that had evolved to survive Meridian Prime's extreme conditions. Each slice required specific angle, specific pressure, understanding the creature's unique cellular structure. A young Kelran observer, her skin flickering between deep blue and nervous green, leaned closer. The colony's environmental controls kept the dining area at a precise temperature, creating a stark contrast with the wild landscape outside. "Your species willingly consumes these creatures?" she asked. Her translator rendered the question with a mix of horror and genuine curiosity. Hyun-woo smiled. "Not just consume, we understand them." He began the marinating process. The spice mixture wasn't just about flavor. It was a carefully calculated blend that would break down the ridge beast's complex protein structures, making the meat not just edible but delicious. The cooking process was a performance. Advanced heat modulators created precise temperature zones. Specialized cutting tools moved with robotic precision, but controlled by human intuition. Each movement told a story of adaptation, of turning potential threat into sustenance. Outside, another ridge beast patrol moved across the rocky terrain. Their massive forms cast shadows that seemed to dance with prehistoric menace. But here, inside the colony's protective shell, they were nothing more than dinner. The Kelran commander's skin began to pulse with a fascinating rhythm, a biological response that their translator interpreted as intense curiosity. "Your relationship with these creatures is complex," the commander noted. Hyun-woo nodded. "We don't just survive here, we integrate, we understand." The first slice of cooked ridge beast meat looked nothing like the terrifying creature that had roamed outside. Golden brown edges, a complex marbling that suggested incredible nutritional density, steam rising with an aroma that was simultaneously familiar and alien. "In our culture," Hyun-woo explained, "we believe that true survival isn't about conquering an environment, it's about understanding it, becoming part of it." The young Kelran observer took a hesitant step forward. Her translator suggested emotional states that mixed fear, curiosity, and a growing respect. Hyun-woo prepared a small plate, perfectly cut, perfectly seasoned, a demonstration of human capability that went far beyond mere survival. "Would you like to taste?" he asked. The dining hall fell silent. Outside, a ridge beast called, a sound that echoed across the rocky landscape like a prehistoric challenge. Inside, human culinary expertise was about to make another impossible thing possible. End of Part 2. The morning mist of Meridian Prime hung low, transforming the rocky landscape into a ghostly canvas of potential danger. Seok-min adjusted his adaptive camouflage suit, its nanofibers shifting color and texture to match the surrounding terrain. Behind him, a small team of hunters moved with synchronized precision. Their equipment wasn't just survival gear, it was a testament to human technological adaptation. Quantum-linked communication devices, biofeedback sensors, and advanced tracking systems that could read environmental changes Most species wouldn't even notice. The Kelran observation team watched from a specially designed hover platform. Their translucent skin flickering with a mix of fear and fascination. They had heard stories about human hunting techniques, but witnessing it was something entirely different. A distant ridge beast call echoed across the landscape, a sound that seemed to vibrate through bone and rock. Most alien species would have considered it a warning. To Seok Min it was information. "Movement at 3 o'clock, whispered Park Ji-soo, the team's tracking specialist. Her neural link display projected holographic data streams that tracked every minute environmental change. Seok Min's hand moved almost imperceptibly. Her series of micro-gestures communicated complex instructions to the team. They weren't just hunting. They were conducting an intricate dance with the planet's most dangerous predators. The ridge beasts of Meridian Prime weren't simple animals. They were complex organisms that had evolved in an environment so harsh that most spacefaring civilizations would have abandoned the planet within days. Massive creatures with crystalline bone structures, electromagnetic sensory capabilities that made conventional stealth technology look primitive, and a social structure more complex than many intelligent species. A young Kelran observer leaned forward, her multi-lens eyes capturing every moment. "How do you predict their movement?" she asked, her translator converting her color-based communication into spoken language. Seok Min didn't turn. "We don't predict. We understand." The first ridge beast appeared like a living shadow, massive horns that could puncture starship hull, plating muscle groups that looked more like living armor than biological tissue. Its skin seemed to shimmer, adapting to the changing light, a biological camouflage that made human tech look primitive. But Seok Min's team was prepared. Specialized sonic devices began to pulse, not to attack, but to communicate. Carefully, modulated frequencies that mimicked ridge beast communication patterns. It wasn't about domination, it was about conversation. The creature paused, its massive head turned, multiple sensory organs assessing the situation. Most species would have seen a monster. Seok Min saw a complex organism responding to its environment. "Tracking pattern indicates a hunting group," Park Ji-soo whispered. "Not lone hunters, a family unit." The Kelran commander's skin shifted to a deep vibrating blue, a color that translated to profound confusion and growing respect. Seok Min's team moved with a fluid grace that defied traditional military training. Each step calculated, each movement part of a larger understanding. They weren't just hunters, they were students of the planet's ecosystem, a complex series of hand signals, micro-drones deployed silently, creating a three-dimensional map of the surrounding terrain, not to hunt, to understand. The ridge beast family moved closer. Most species would have seen an impossible threat. Seok Min saw potential, resources, a complex life form that could be managed, respected, integrated. "Prepare containment protocols," he said softly. "Not to capture, to study, to understand." The Kelran observation team watched in stunned silence as humans transformed what other species saw as a nightmare environment into something manageable, something livable, something home. As the first ridge beast approached, Seok Min stood his ground, not in defiance, in understanding. Another day of hunting, another day of survival, another day of proving what humans could do. End of Part 3. The colony's central communication chamber hummed with an electric anticipation. Nari stood before the Kelran delegation, her posture relaxed yet commanding, a quintessential human blend of confidence and subtle challenge. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing Meridian Prime's transformation from a seemingly impossible environment to a thriving human settlement. Each image told a story of adaptation, of human resilience that went beyond mere survival. "Most species look at a hostile planet and see limitations," Nari began, her voice steady and clear. "We see opportunities." The Kelran commander's skin shifted through a kaleidoscope of colors, a biological response that translated to intense confusion and growing respect. Specialized translation devices struggled to capture the nuanced communication. Behind Nari, massive screens displayed the colony's ecological management systems. Intricate networks of bioengineering, technological adaptation, and pure human determination transformed what other species considered a death zone into a living, breathing ecosystem. Specialized drone footage showed ridge beast migration patterns, carefully mapped and understood. Not controlled but integrated, humans hadn't conquered Meridian Prime. They had become part of its complex biological tapestry. Look here, Nari pointed to a holographic rendering of the planet's geological structure. Most would see impossible terrain. We see a challenge to be solved. The youngest Kelran observer leaned forward, her multi-lens eyes capturing every detail. Her translator struggled to convey the complexity of human perspective, a way of thinking that defied traditional galactic understanding. Quantum-linked environmental sensors displayed real-time data, atmospheric composition, geological stress points, complex biological interactions, a network so intricate that most alien civilizations would require centuries of study. Humans had mapped it in mere decades. We don't just survive, Nari explained. We understand. We adapt. We become. Backup systems showed how human technology worked in harmony with the planet's natural systems. Solar collectors designed to mimic local plant structures, water collection systems that worked with geological formations, energy production that didn't just extract, but contributed. The Kelran delegation's communication patterns became increasingly complex. Their biological communication suggested a mixture of emotions: fear, respect, confusion, and a growing sense of something close to awe. Nari pulled up images of the first human settlers, ordinary people who had looked at an impossible world and saw home, not conquerors, not survivors, creators. Every challenge is an opportunity, she said, her voice carrying the weight of human experience. Where other species see barriers, we see possibilities. Drone footage showed human children playing near controlled ridge beast migration zones, not in fear, in understanding, in harmony. The colony itself was a living testament to human capability, structures that seemed to grow from the planet's rock rather than being imposed upon it, engineering that respected the local ecosystem while providing advanced technological capabilities. Specialized agricultural systems demonstrated how humans transformed seemingly impossible terrain into productive spaces. Vertical farms that used minimal resources, genetic adaptations that allowed crops to thrive in extreme conditions. We don't change the environment to suit us, Nari continued. We change ourselves to understand the environment. The Kelran commander's skin began to pulse with a rhythm that suggested deep emotional processing. Their translator struggled to convey the complexity of their response. Images of medical breakthroughs flickered across the screens. How human researchers had studied ridge beast biological structures, developing new medical technologies. Not just surviving, advancing, always advancing. Nari's final presentation showed something truly remarkable. A complete ecological map of Meridian Prime, showing how human presence had actually stabilized and improved the planet's complex biological systems. "This is who we are," she said simply. The communication chamber fell silent. Outside, a ridge beast called, a sound that now seemed less like a threat and more like a conversation. The Kelran delegation had come expecting to find a struggling human colony. They were discovering something far more profound, a civilization that didn't just explore the universe, a civilization that understood it. End of Part 4. The final day of the Kelran diplomatic mission arrived with an unexpected tension. Jaehoon stood at the colony's primary observation deck, watching the alien spacecraft prepare for departure. Meridian Prime's triple moons cast long shadows across the rocky landscape, creating an ethereal backdrop to what might become a pivotal moment in interstellar relations. Massive ridge beasts moved in the distant valleys, their silhouettes dancing between geological formations that looked more like ancient sculptures than natural terrain. The Kelran delegation had witnessed something far beyond their initial expectations: humanity's extraordinary ability to not just survive, but thrive in what should have been an impossible environment. Preparing final transmission protocols, announced Park Dong-hyuk from the communication station. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, each movement precise and calculated. The Kelran commander's ship hummed with a strange energy. Its biometallic hull seemed to pulse with unresolved emotions, confusion, respect, and something close to professional admiration. Their initial mission to assess human capabilities had transformed into something far more profound. Yujin approached. With a carefully prepared package, ridge beast meat, specially prepared, vacuum-sealed, and presented as a diplomatic gift. A symbolic gesture that represented everything the Kelran had learned about human culture. "They still cannot fully comprehend what they've witnessed," whispered Nari, analyzing the alien delegation's communication patterns. They're biological. Communication, a complex dance of color and electromagnetic pulses, suggested deep internal conflict. The young Kelran observer, who had been most fascinated by human techniques, stepped forward. Her multi-lens eyes captured every detail of the human settlement, structures that seemed to grow from the planet rather than being imposed upon it. "Your species does not conquer," she said, her translator rendering her color-based communication into spoken words. "You integrate. You understand." Jae-hoon smiled, a simple human gesture that seemed to communicate more than 1,000 diplomatic speeches. Outside, a ridge beast patrol moved with surprising grace. What the Kelran had initially seen as uncontrollable monsters were now recognized as complex organisms, a living part of Meridian Prime's intricate ecosystem. The colony's defensive systems remained passive. No aggressive postures, no hidden threats. Just an open invitation to understand. Quantum-linked communication systems began final data transfers. Decades of ecological research, survival techniques, and human adaptation strategies would be shared, not as a display of superiority, but as an invitation to learn. "We're not just sending data," Jae-hoon explained to the Kelran commander. "We're sharing a perspective, a way of seeing the universe." The alien spacecraft's energy signature began to shift. Preparation for interstellar jump. But something was different. The initial clinical approach had transformed into something more nuanced. Specialized tracking systems showed the Kelran vessel's data collection had gone far beyond initial diplomatic protocols. They weren't just observing, they were learning. A final transmission crackled through the communication systems. The Kelran commander's message was complex, part report, part personal reflection. "Humanity is not what galactic records suggested." The transmission read, "Humanity is something me unexpected." The ridge beast in the distant valley called, a sound that now seemed less like a threat and more like a communication. A reminder of the complex systems that defined Meridian Prime. Jae-hoon held the prepared ridge beast stake, a symbol of human capability, understanding, adaptation, transformation. The Kelran spacecraft began its departure sequence, but something had changed, not just in their mission parameters, in their entire understanding of what it meant to explore, to survive, to exist. Humanity had done more than survive on Meridian Prime. They had shown the galaxy a different way of experiencing the universe. As the spacecraft disappeared into the star-filled sky, a single ridge beast watched from the rocky terrain, a silent witness to a moment that would ripple through galactic history. Another day, another challenge transformed into an opportunity. Just another day for humanity. End of Part 5.